All right, we are rolling live. Hello and welcome to another installment of Get a Clue in 52 for Speakers, the speaker edition with my friend and co-author and so many other like identities that you have in my world, Sue Mathieson, all the way from down under. And if you can't tell, Sue's in the car, and I'm coming
Yep.
to you live from Las Vegas, where I am at. Shout out to the one, the only Brian Trachel. And I am here at his house. He's so grateful. I'm so grateful to him for letting me use his house when I'm here in town in Las Vegas. Brian Trachel, shout out to you. And my San Diego State Aztecs are playing basketball down the street in about an hour and 15 minutes. They'll tip off. So we're going to do a little bit of an abbreviated version today. We're not going to stay the whole 45 minutes, but we're going to bring it. Now, one of the reasons today is so exciting, first of all, welcome to Get a Clue in 52 for Speakers with my co-author and friend, Sue Mathieson. We're getting the banners going. In what we want to let you guys know, what's special about today is that we're done with section one. Section one, the first 10 weeks of the year, was playing the integrity game. And it was just so wonderful. Sue and I would go back and forth. Sometimes she would review the tips. Sometimes I would review the tips. And of course, our dialogue is shared as we go over each tip. But we're done with the integrity game. We set our structural integrity foundation. Now, like building a house or the framework of the house, now we're going to paint it, decorate it. We're going to bring out our brand. So we're in section 2 now. So the next 10 weeks, next 2.5 months, it's all about bringing out your
10 weeks.
10 weeks. Did I say 10 months? You know what I meant. I'm going fast. I'm all excited.
No,
Anyway, 2.5 months, 2.5 months, 10 weeks, 10 tips. And I'm slowing down now because I'm super excited. I had a 5-minute transition coming off of a 3-day online event into this situation. And shout out to Diane Forster. She's changing lives. She is empowering women. She's, she's building a network for, anyway, ask me about that some other time. It's still fresh in my mind. It was a fantastic event. So getting into this, we're going to bring out our brand. Then 11 weeks from now, we're going to get into section 3, which is Be Fearless. That's all about 8 steps to preparing a speech, but we threw 2 extra tips in there to have 10 total in the, 10 total in the section. Then one of those tips is so important, we go deep on it and we break down its elements, forms, and functions. So we're going to create 10 tips out of 1 tip. So 1 tip in section 3 creates 10 tips for section 4. We'll explain more as we proceed through the year and through the book. And then finally, we're going to wrap up with 12 tips in practice building. It's okay. It's great that you know how to speak and that you can speak, even if you've gotten paid to speak sometimes. Right. But do you want to build a practice out of that? There's all kinds of other accountabilities that you need to pay attention to rather than just the mechanics of building your foundation, building your brand, preparing for speeches, delivering speeches. If you want to build a practice or all the way up to a business out of it, there's 12 accountabilities that we want to have fun sharing with you. So having said that, Sue, let me welcome you to this edition. Let me give you a couple minutes to say anything that you want to say before we get into section 2, bring out your brand, and tip number 11 overall, the very first in our current section, section 2. Hi, Sue.
Thank you, Jeff. Really good to be here as always, and I am super excited to take that analogy of having built the foundation and the frame and got our house sort of structurally in place to now be looking at the painting and the fitting out and like as we go through these tips to see how that plays out in terms of building our brand. And I'm excited. So how about we get into it?
Well, I thought you'd never ask. All you had to do is ask is for me to let you talk for a little bit. That's all you needed, right? And then it was easy. All right, so here we go. Tip number 11, don't be a spectator. Real quick, I want to mention at the end of section 10, we've got like some worksheet and some prompting. So, once you've got those 10 tips from section 1 under your belt, now you can exercise and put pen to paper and start to ideate. And so we want to make sure that you understand it's not just content, but we've created a couple of pages at the end of each section for you to work through it a little bit and exercise and get stuff out of your head on, etc. And if you want to contact us and share that with us and brainstorm and ideate and soundboard and get feedback, we would love to hear from you. Having said all of that,
absolutely.
Page 60 is where we're going to pick up and read for you word for word. So here we go. Tip number 11, don't be a spectator. As we progressed through her coaching, Sue impressed me with her desire to become the best speaker possible. Her questions were on point, and they indicated that Sue understood that speaking involves more than standing on stage. The best speakers know that their craft is a business, and every business needs a brand. I've come to expect Sue's questions to be thoughtful and provocative, and the next question she posed didn't disappoint.
Not so much a question, a statement. So, when running a business or practice, one of the elements that is key to its success is branding.
You are so right, Sue. Branding is critical to the success of your speaking career, but you brought up an important point and a question that deserves to be answered when you said, I certainly want to be noticed. I want to be the preferred speaker when a choice is made between me and someone else for a conference, because I want to be because I want to be front of mind when someone is organizing an event. I'm curious to understand how branding relates when it comes to being a speaker. We should have just put that in the box. Note to self, Sue. We should have put that in the box. All right, version 2. We're going to fix that. All right. So to your question, let me start by saying branding is not a spectator sport. When it comes to branding, be very clear that it is an active, never passive phenomena. Something that we will repeat over and over and over again in the tips in this section and the book overall is that a brand is a promise to the marketplace, and your brand is your promise to the marketplace. So get this. And actually, now I know how to slow down ahead of time rather than slow down and reread it. Here we go. So get this. Even if you decided you do not need a personal brand and declared that you do not even know what your personal brand is, let alone what it should be, and believed or intended that you have no personal brand, you'd still have a personal brand. Let me elaborate using 2 truths I taught my communication students in my role as a college professor. Number 1, communication is receiver-based. By this, we are referring to the decoding process when an observer-receiver makes meaning of what they observe and receive. We all make meaning of anything we pay attention to. In fact, nothing is really a message until we pay attention to it and decide what it means. Until then, it's just a piece of stimuli, a sound, sight, touch, taste, or odor, whether that thing had any intention of being observed or not. That leads to the second truth. Nonverbal communication can be both intentional and unintentional. Very often we intend to send nonverbal messages. Nonverbal being everything other than words or linguistics that can be observed and decoded into meaning. Intentional communication is when a source or sender encodes their intentions into something observable that then gets decoded when observed. We do that intentionally a lot. In fact, we are a source of nonverbal communication as long as we are observable, because 100% of the time that anyone can observe us, they can make meaning, and they can make any meaning they want of whatever they observe. Combine these 2 truths and we realize that regardless of what we intend or believe or declare or decide, the marketplace is always deciding for itself what things mean. It is easy to underestimate the importance of personal branding and avoid actively participating in your brand. The truth, however, is that branding occurs whether you participate in it or not. If you do not take the time to brand yourself, the market will brand you, and perhaps not favorably. Customers can bring negative attention to a company or individual, or attention can easily escalate to the court of public opinion. Taking control of personal branding is necessary to manage your public reputation. And here's a little Kluby snack for you. Observers will always make their own meaning of what they observe unless we proactively do the work of ensuring they'll make the meaning we want made. That is not always 100% possible. However, failing to proactively develop, promote, and deliver on our brand promise leaves, quote, what people can expect from us up to them. What I want you to get from this tip is to take branding seriously and know that you are branding yourself 100% of the time, simply because one way or another, people will come to learn what they can expect from you. We want you to be on top of that messaging, to control that narrative, to prioritize developing the promises you know you can consistently make and deliver to the marketplace, to be proactive and consistent about your commitment to making sure people know exactly what they can expect from you.
Yeah. And what I'm taking from this is that whether I take action or not, I'm essentially creating a brand for myself. Therefore, it is better to be proactive. So I am establishing myself in a way that I want to be seen.
That's correct. In summary, the first tip here is a mindset tip, a commitment to being proactive about promoting ourselves as speakers. Don't be a spectator.
And now that I've made the choice to be proactive in my personal branding, is it natural that I go from asking, how do I go about that, to something more specific like, Jeff, what are your strategies for someone committed to being proactive about their brand?
Yes, and another excellent question, Sue, because it leads right into our next tip where we'll discuss the difference between your brand and branding, the process of creating it. Let's go ahead and get started, which is really, that's only if you're turning the pages, right? If you're tuning in for the live tip reading, you got to wait a week, okay? And so next week, we're going to move on to tip 12, and we're probably going to do a more extended version next week. We'll probably do a full 45-minute version per schedule, but we can see that Sue is sitting in the car. Sue, what's the weather like in Australia? Are you still getting your near 30-degree temperatures? Like, what's going on weather-wise in Australia? Or did you freeze, Sue? Did we? Oh, no. Sue. All right. Well, I think I'm still going live. Let me see. Yeah, my clicker is still counting, and I don't know if you guys can see Sue, but she's frozen on my side. Let me check and see if anybody's making any comments here. Yeah, so we Sue and I agreed we'd do an abbreviated version today. We'd introduce that we're in section 2, bring out your brand. Tip number 11 is don't be a spectator. As a point of review, we're coming out of section 1, 10 tips which make up playing the integrity game to build our structural integrity, our foundation for our purpose and everything else as a speaker. And now we're going to paint the house. We're going to decorate the house. We're going to landscape and so forth, right? So the brand, in more concrete terms, not metaphorical terms, is our promise to the marketplace. And of course, the effectiveness of our brand, the reputation of our brand, is whether or not we deliver on that. And just to summarize the first tip in section number 2, bring out your brand. Don't be a spectator. Being passive leaves it up to the marketplace to decide. Right? What's going on, right? The expectations that people have for your brand or your products or your services or your labor hours, even if you have a personal brand inside an organization, if you're not a marketer or an entrepreneur or a business owner or anything like that, still, do you want to set the expectations in the market for what you know you can deliver on, or do you want them to just decide, right? We wanted you to be on top of that narrative, control the narrative, be proactive, don't sit back and hope that everybody will have the proper expectations that you know you can deliver on by being a spectator for your own brand. No, take charge, take the reins, take the wheel, drive your own ship. I don't know how else I can elaborate on this. I think Sue has dropped off now, which is just another sign that, hey, I think it's appropriate that we do the abbreviated version today. Personally, on a personal note, I'm going to go to Thomas and Mack Arena here in Las Vegas, and I'm going to go root on my San Diego State Aztecs in the semifinals of the Mountain West Conference tournament. They're taking on the number 1 seed Utah State. So I'm about to wrap up, but we'll see everybody next week for tip number 12 overall. And it's funny too. Let me just laugh at myself a little bit. Normally, I do last call for comments, questions, jokes, tips, gratitude, etc. But I find myself by myself right now. So I just wanted to put the graphic up there and promise that we'll have a big discussion. It'll be jovial after next week's tip. And let me just preview it by name for you guys. Next week, the tip is brand versus branding. People get confused sometimes. Is my brand my logo or my color scheme? It's in that it includes those things, but it's always so much more. All right. So tip number 11, don't be a spectator. And then next week, tip number 12 will be brand versus branding. Besides the obvious, one's a noun, the other's a verb. There's more to it than that, and we'll cover it next week. I see 3 eyeballs online right now. I just want to say thanks to any of you out there that are chiming in. We do this tip reading every single week out of Get a Clue in 52. My co-author, Sue Mathieson, she's dropped off. She's remote. It looked like she was in the car getting ready to do something on a Saturday evening. So at least we got the tip reading in, and we're going to spend more time online next week. So We hope that you join us and keep your eyes open for the links to click to come on live into the studio with us to join the jovial conversation after next week's tip reading. For now, my name is Jeff Klubeck. As you probably know, I've got a graphic for myself right here, founder and author of The Integrity Game. But this is also my fourth Get a Clue in 52 book. This time it's special, though, because I've got co-author Sue Mathieson with me, and it's a treat to connect with her every week and bring you these tips. So be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, have a great weekend. Don't be a spectator when it comes to bringing out your brand. Make sure that you're on top of and proactive about the narrative and the expectations that you are setting in the marketplace for the promises that you're going to get ready to deliver on. All right, we'll see everybody next week. Go Aztecs, and thank you guys so much. We'll see you.